again with another terrific Zoomer Times TV presentation. I have two stars who love to write love and romance books, and we featured this wonderful book in our as book of the month, and it was in our March. That's right, it was March. It seemed like it was only yesterday. It was in our March issue as book of the month, and it was really a sizzler. I have to tell you, I loved it. You read my review, it was hot, sexy, and you know, the red shoes did it. I keep dwelling on red shoes, and I don't know why, but I think I once had a pair years ago. I'm going to have to relook at that. But anyway, Melva Michaelian and Anna Carrasco Bowling are the authors, and they're both charming and very talented. So welcome to our show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So let me talk about your book. It was filled with interesting parts. It wasn't a romance article right away. I mean, a romance book right away. It got into that. It was more serious. It was about writers and personalities. So before we start with the book, why don't we tell the audience a little bit more about your background? Why don't we start with you, Melva, and tell us why you like to write these romance novels?
Well, I think I've always been a romantic, in spite of the fact that I was a teacher and professor for 47 years. And of course, I taught literature, the classics and things like this. But, you know, I was always looking for the romantic side of even the classics. You know, there's a lot there. And I mean, who doesn't love a good romance? So we got into that. Both Anna and I have written books before, either with other people and alone. And so she was the one that really got me into the romance genre. She kind of dragged me kicking and screaming into it. I may have loved to read them, but I was a little reluctant to write them. And so she took me to a romance writers meeting, and I just clicked with the other authors there. And then, as I like to say sometimes, I went out for a drink of water one day, I came back, and I was president of the group.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And so, are you married now?
Me? Oh, yes.
You're married. So I wanted to ask you.
So very married.
Oh, you're so very married. So my question is, how does your husband feel about writing romance novels?
Well, he actually doesn't read them. It's probably just as well, you know, when you have a book affair with another guy like Dominic, it's not good to have, you know, your husband reading it. And also, we don't want to give them illusions that they're the main character in the book. So
right. That's what I was getting at. Well, that's good, and I can approve of that. Okay, so that's a little bit about you. Now let's go to your partner here, Anna. So Anna, you sound like you're the instigator of this whole thing.
I have been called that, yes. I got an early start on romance novels. When I was 11 years old, I stole a romance novel from my mom's nightstand and read it under the brass bed in the guest bedroom and never looked back.
Oh my goodness. And did you dream about romance? Is this why it's so important to you?
Well, I've always been reading it. Even before my grand larceny, I always liked fairy tales that had romance in them. I think I was just hardwired for it.
And so how did, you know, of course, the book's called Chasing Prince Charming. And I was thinking, so you must have loved the story about Cinderella.
Oh, yes. I still like to read different variations on the classic fairy tales. The Brothers Grimm sanitized them a lot.
I am sure. And so I heard that both of you do go, though, to these workshops where other people enjoy writing romance stories.
Yes.
What do you learn, Anna, when you're there? What do you learn
so many
from them?
Things. Romance is such a broad umbrella that I find that any presenter has something to teach me that I don't know already. It can be about craft. It can be about the romance genre. It can be about publicity, or learning about empathy, about people I don't know about. I find it endlessly fascinating. You can have romantic characters from teenagers to seniors, not together though.
Watch that.
Yeah, that's a different genre, I think. Sensuality levels from sweet to erotic and everything in between.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like you do love it. And there are so many channels and paths to take. So let's kind of get into your book.
Okay.
I'm really curious how it is for two writers to get together and to write. So, Melva, how do you do that? How do you know what you're supposed to write and what Anna's supposed to write?
Well, we had both written with other people before. We both had experience with that. And we actually would travel together to these conferences and things like this, which we obviously a couple of times wound up giving presentations at as well. But we had traveled together and we were at this one particular conference. And as I said before, I don't know, we had gotten to a workshop that got canceled. So we started talking since we were both going to the same workshop. And we decided to set it right there at the workshop, and that's how this story began. We started bouncing ideas back and forth. But in order to get it kind of organized, Anna would do the male part. Anytime you say anything that is in Dominic's point of view, she wrote that. Anything in Meg's point of view, that's me. So hopefully you can tell that the characters are slightly different, but at least we hope the writing melds. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. So, that's an interesting thing. So did you role play? Is that how you did this?
Actually, I think the characters took their own roles
They
all by
really did.
themselves.
They just, that's who showed up.
That's who showed up, huh?
They were backseat drivers on all of these trips that we took, yes.
Things just fell together very naturally.
It did.
We're either due for a really big blow up or we're just never going to have one.
Well, what I was so thrilled about, because I review a lot of books, your characters were so real. I mean, they just popped out of that book, just popped out of the book. And sometimes, I wanted to, I really wanted to do something to smack Dominic. So you're responsible for Dominic, right, Anna?
Yeah, well, he got away from me a few times, but yeah.
Right, but I really did love the female character, Meg. She was really good. She was strong, but she really had a nice side to her. So what?
I love Meg. She's great.
Yeah. So Melva, you did a very good job on her. Is there anyone that's like that in your life?
Oh, thank you for what you said. I think she's probably a combination of everything. You always put a little bit of yourself into these characters as well. You can't help it. But she is pure imagination and a combination of so many strong women that I've known. So that usually that usually works for me. And if you feel like you wanted to smack Dominic, where do you find the next hero?
The next book you're writing. Oh my goodness, that's rough.
He's much more smack worthy.
Smack worthy.
Oh
my goodness, this is great. Well, I hope I get to read that one. Well, let's go back to the red shoes. Who decided on the red shoes? Melva?
We both did.
They just kind of showed up.
It's kind of the Cinderella thing, the glass slipper, but we just painted it scarlet.
Right. Well, of course, I think of Sex in the City, of course, with the red shoes.
Oh, I've never seen that.
I've never seen it either.
You are kidding.
No.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, I've listened to a lot of you, but you want to see Sex in the City. The two of you, oh my goodness, talk about romance writers. Okay, next time you see them, we're going to talk, all right?
Okay.
Sex in the City. Well, she was the star was really a not a food, but a shoeaholic.
Mm-hmm.
And big red high heel shoes were her thing. So that's why, so for me, that's what it said. But okay, so Chasing Prince Charming. How long did it take you to know that name? How do you get a name?
Oh, it involves incantations, small sacrifices, many candles, and asking people you do and don't know what's a good name for this. We came up with it the night before we pitched it.
Really?
Yeah.
True.
What were some of your other names?
Oh, I can't even remember now.
I
Yeah, something to do with books.
know
Yes,
one had something like embracing the editor. I don't know. They were bad.
yeah, they were bad. It was a whole list of things which we kind of threw them like trash out of the window as we drove. But yeah, and the thing is, we were about to pitch it, and she turned back to me and she says, "By the way, it's Chasing Prince Charming." I said, oh, okay.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it was a wonderful title. I mean, it made you want to pick up. And then the cover itself. I think you told me that your publisher picked that.
Yes, they have Wild Rose Press. They have an amazing art department. The artist who did this is named Ray Monet, like Claude Monet, and she made it perfect. That is exactly what we saw in our head when I first saw the cover. It's them.
That's true. Yeah,
I recognized them right away.
Yeah,
He's a
it's so
little-
interesting that these are figments of your imagination, but there they are.
They are. He's a little bit younger than we imagined on the cover, but
He
I
wears it
think
well.
if you squint, you can make him have a few wrinkles.
Everyone's younger than they really are nowadays anyway, you know. And
Don't we
everyone wants to
wish?
look younger.
Good job.
That is really great. Now, talk a little bit. We didn't hear, at least I didn't read into his mother very much. His mother's very important in this to him, to Dominic. You put her kind of in the background. It was just all ideas. So of course that was Dominic's mother. So Anna, why don't you explain about Dominic's mother?
Oh, Jessica Stewart was a superstar historical romance writer. And she was based on, again, some of my very favorite authors who came up in the first wave of historical romance in the early 70s and up through the 80s. And they wrote big, bold, passionate tales of women who broke the rules and won anyway. And someone who was able to take what life gave her and turn it into stories and combine it with a love of history. And then as, we're getting around to the time when a lot of those greats have been passing on. And I was thinking, well, what if she hadn't been able to finish the manuscript? And what would the family do with that? And that has happened with some of the authors who have passed on. Either it needs finishing by someone who can help with it, as was with this, or it was complete, as has happened in other cases. And more about what the romance genre means to a lot of people. And it's all about relationships and character and stretching beyond what's familiar. And, we knew we wanted to have one character who didn't know a lot about romance and one who absolutely loved it. And we thought, well, what if the one who loved it was the man? And why would he love it? And that's because that's how he saw his mother heal from his father's death, and not only heal, but prosper.
Yeah. I like that part about him. He seemed like he was very devoted to his mother to the point of trying to find someone. So the person he found had to be very special.
Oh, yes.
And I think she realized that. And that's why she was a little bit, I think, hesitant. Why do I want to do this, right?
Well, I know Meg is Melva's character, but if it were me in Meg's situation, who am I to do that?
She was used to characters that were a lot more abrasive, a lot more strong, and kind of like, the Wonder Woman type of person is what she used to write. But now she's being asked to do something that is really out of character for her as a writer. But let's face it, we're all a little bit romantic, which she refuses to admit until quite a bit into it,
Right.
And so it's interesting, the kind of the reversal of roles there. We thought so anyway, as we were thinking about it, how to make things just a little bit different. And
Yeah, it was very
Dominic,
clever. Mhm. It was
yeah,
a clever thing that you decided to do. Well, on another note, let me ask you, is that common that people who haven't finished their book because of something happens, that other people jump in? Either one of you can talk about that.
I think it's rare that that happens because most romance authors, like most professional authors, they are professionals and they're going to get the job done.
they are. But you do have people like the one who wrote I think it was Ian Fleming. I think somebody wrote for him after that. And the one who wrote that Boston detective too, I can't remember, it's not James Patterson, but I can't remember his name. But he now has somebody writing after his demise in his name. It's this guy, this author's character, but this author is now writing with using that character. That does happen on occasion. And you see a lot of authors now, especially very high profile ones, that are writing with another writer under them. And it also produces more volume for the well-known author, but it also gives a start to the lesser known author. So I can see that happening a lot because the well-known author is a lot more saleable than the other one. So
Yeah,
it's starting, but the situation that we had in there, Anna's right, that doesn't happen very often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was I was curious for me too. When, just before I let you go on that, do they keep the person's name if someone else is writing it, or they do it with, like some the name and then with another name?
Well, I think,
Oh, go ahead, Anna, if you want.
I think it generally depends on the publisher.
A
Like
lot of-
Stacey Andrews has had a ghostwriter. Well, she passed away decades ago, and the ghostwriter is just doing stuff under her name, but everybody knows it's not her.
But a lot of them now are actually putting it, saying, for instance, if you were talking about Harlan Coben, say Harlan Coben's John Smith series, authored by, and the new writer that's in there. So that you know this is his world and his characters, but this guy's doing the plot through it.
Well, wasn't it Sanditon, Jane Austen, and a lady?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just curious because I thought that was the one thing. Here she was a very successful writer and she wanted to keep doing her own things, but the publisher wanted her to do something different, which I was surprised too. But this was a perfect thing, and little did she know this was going to be her love of her life. She had an inkling, but she didn't want to fall down that rabbit hole. Right?
No, it was going to be the love of her life, both literally, fictionally, and figuratively. Yes, especially with Dominic. But I think her genre though was kind of petering out, so she had to go someplace. You know.
Yeah, that part is actually very realistic. There are, as with any genre, there are fashions and trends. And like I was at a conference a few years back, and the editor I was pitching to loved my story, was quoting my own lines back to me, but said she couldn't ask for it because her boss told her, don't take any medievals.
Huh. Yeah.
So see, like vampires are in for a while, then all of a sudden they're out. You know, war rules take over, and then then the vampires are back. It's just a cycle that it goes.
I see. Yeah, but yours was not. So let me just do this again. Chasing Prince Charming, Melva Michaelian and Anna Carrasco Bowling wrote this terrific book. It's not that large, so you can get through it. Let me see. It's 337 pages about, and I will tell you, you will have a hard time putting it down once you start to read it, because it's fetching, it's informative. It talks about, if you're a writer, you'll learn from it also. And it's terrific to have two people who don't even live near each other write a book together. And I'm sure that you both spent time on the phone, and did you spend time on, what did you do? Send things through the email? You
Yes,
did a chat?
email, Microsoft Messenger, Zoom.
And we would email each other the scene that we were doing. So it's almost like a game of gossip, you say one thing,
Mhm.
you continue it, embellish on the story and that sort of thing. And, and we're still doing that, but we do talk with each other on online as well. It's as live as we can get at the moment, especially with a lockdown. But it works for us. And they say if it isn't broken, then don't go around tinkering with it.
Well, now, has that helped you, the fact that you've had to really concentrate? You can't go out, you can't do things. Did it help get this book done quicker? Now, when did you finish this book, actually? Was it before the COVID?
Before.
Very much before, yes. It was actually published, I think, is it 2 years ago now or 1 year ago, Anna? This August.
A while ago.
Yes.
I don't know.
It must have been the previous August, because the book launch party was in the fall and we wouldn't have done it with COVID. So
Right.
Yeah. So the book you're working on now, though, you probably got it done maybe even quicker because you can't go other places. You can't do other things.
Well, we both had some life events that made writing an interesting thing, but we're back on track now. And we're scheduled to send this to our publisher, and then we're starting on the next one.
Yeah, we actually have started the scenes for the next book, the third in the series. Yes.
Wow. And so it is a series.
Yes.
It's a three book series. Yes.
Okay. And what's the series called?
Love by the Book.
The Love by the Book series. Yes.
Okay.
And we're taking Kelly, the agent in Chasing Prince Charming, is now the heroine of the next book, of Drama King. And Heather, who is Dominic's sister, is the heroine of book number 3, called Queen of Hearts.
You're great. I just love talking to you about these things because it's very unusual, to have two women who are able to do this so successfully, and it's so charming. And what I like is there's no murder and nothing that's ugly. I don't like ugly. I'm tired of watching television with all that. This is pure fantasy, fun, love. I wanted to swat him a few times, but it's okay.
You deserved it a few times. It's okay.
Yeah, right. So,
thank you so much.
I wonder if there's someone like that really who exists. I'll bet some of the readers know people just like that.
Well, I think we see bits of people we know when in characters, Oh,
Well,
I know that. Yes.
You can't prove that there isn't.
Right. But, and it is really nice to be able to curl up with a book, especially now with just turning off the TV and getting something that is so nice. And it reads so easily. I was thinking about that because I have to review a lot of books, and sometimes it's real laborious for me. I have to go through it, and I go through it. Yours was not. Yours was fun. In fact, I didn't do some things I was supposed to do because I got so caught up in reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, it was true. And I hope people will buy your book. You can go to Amazon and get it. Is that where people can go?
Absolutely, yes.
Chasing Prince Charming. Go to Amazon.com and buy their book because it'll be fun. And it's interesting that now that Mother's Day is coming up, moms would like this. I'm sure
moms would love that.
Yes, they would, because lots of moms are still out looking.
Absolutely.
Grandmoms are out looking.
Absolutely, yes. There's no age limit on that.
No, that's right. There's no age limit, and I'm sure there are people in your life may not be in the writing profession, but in other professions, and you will relate to it because that's how you develop those characters. They had, certain parts to them that you recognize in certain people. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, he was, and the thing I liked is no matter what he did, she really was right on top of it, and he knew it.
Mhm.
He was
Yes.
impressed with her, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that they start meeting in a bar with antagonism and wind up in a bar too with it. You know, it's they raise the bar somewhere along the line in their relationship.
Well, because I think in any good relationship, as I was reading into that, you have to have trust, you have to have
Yes.
respect, you have to have admiration. And I think that's what you brought, and that's very important in a character. And I think she felt the same thing after a while, you know, when she got over this problem she was having about, you know, finishing the book.
Yeah, yeah. She was reluctant, absolutely, and we're all reluctant to take on new roles in our lives and go down new paths. But sometimes you find out that that path was a heck of a lot brighter than you thought it would be. And I think we've all made those discoveries.
And I forgot now, it's been a little while since I read this. Was he divorced and was she divorced? I forget. What was
No,
her situation?
neither have been married, but she did have a long-term relationship beforehand.
Which ended rather acrimoniously, which of course
Oh.
put her trust in the, you know, in the trash as well. So she,
Yes, now, okay, now it's coming back to me. That's right. But so neither were married, so there were no children involved. This is only just the mother and what happened. The other thing about this though was that she, once she realized that she really cared about him, she had a difficult time to think about what was she doing now. Was she mixing this up or was it real? And she asked a lot of those questions, didn't she?
she certainly did. There's a lot of internal dialogue going on and a lot of internal fighting with herself about, first of all, the trust issue, as you mentioned before. And also she was thinking of this, okay, I'm doing this because if you remember, for a certain reason that she was doing this. And she figured, okay, this is one and done. This is it, you know, and that's also the way it's going to be with this relationship. You know, as long as it will last, as long as they put the period in the last sentence of the book, and that's it. But of
Yeah,
course,
right.
things do change.
2 minutes.
That's where Anna had to really figure out how to make this happen because they were both, well, he wasn't, I think he already realized he really cared about her. She was really saying, oh no, I got to just cut this off, right? So you had to figure out how to blend that.
Oh, we both did. We did this together, but yeah, Dominic was sure about his feelings, I think, before Meg was. And he just had to wait until they were more on the same page, so to speak.
Literally.
Well, yes, which was not easy for him because he just likes to suit up and go into it.
We may have, we write from the different points of view, but we plot the whole thing together. So that, you know, whatever happens, we've both discussed, but how it happens, word for word, is up to each one of us.
You know, I have to say this. Here we are talking about two fictitious characters as though they really exist.
I know.
And we're going into this. I mean, that's what a good book does. It makes you forget everything else and know that that's real, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, thank you. That's the best compliment an author can hear.
It is.
That's right. And I guess, are we running out of time? I think we are, Dan.
Yes. We have 2
So
minutes
this
left.
is our romance interview, and we'll have another one eventually, but right now that's it. And you can buy Chasing Prince Charming on Amazon.com. Maybe you ought to buy it before we have our next interview, then you can enjoy it. But these are not real people, folks, but I'm sure they are to you after you read it. I think they are. I can see them, smell them, touch them. I know them.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure being with you today, and we'll catch you again.
Well, thank you.
So goodbye, everybody.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.